Hey guys, I just wanted to show you a video of just a few things that I feel like I didn't get a chance to cover in class. So I just want you to know if you want to do any bubble wrap and you don't happen to have any bubble wrap, if you have anything that is like, I don't know, whatever this is, a mailer. I had a couple of these. You can cut it up and there's bubble wrap on the inside. You could always use that. So I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. I'm going to show you 4 different things: dry on dry, dry on wet, wet on wet, wet on dry. So these are things and techniques in watercolor painting that you guys will need to learn as you are progressing through your candy painting or your new painting. So dry on dry is real easy. All you want to do is, if you look at my paint right here, I haven't added any water to it. It's literally just the paint. So dry on dry is essentially, if this paper is completely dry, just pick a color and it's just, you can see how really dry that is. Okay, it's like kind of yucky. If you want to try a more watered down look, so you can kind of see what that looks like. It's not too pretty. You can actually add a little bit of water to it. Maybe just wet your brush down. And you can kind of get more. You're just going to have to keep applying more paint to that if you are looking for like almost solid color. Okay, so that's going to give you the most solid and thick color. That's really thick right there. So you can add a little bit more water to that. That'll give you a brighter, darker color. Okay, so dry on wet. So what you do is you wet your paper first. It's almost like working backwards. So you wet your paper, pick a spot that you want wet, okay? And then I'm gonna dry my brush. Let me move that so you guys can see this. And then you're gonna take just your dry paint, and wherever that wet was, look at that. Look how cool it is. And it starts to kind of spread, okay? That's gonna give you a really interesting look, okay? You can actually go from dark to light with that. It's kind of neat to play with. So if you want to try a different color, let's try a nice color. Let's try this orange. It's interesting just to kind of play around with it. It's kind of weird. Okay, wet on wet. Let's try that. So basically you're just going to wet your paper, get a good wet, good area down. Okay, then you're going to get some water, add it to a color so it's real wet. Now what you're creating is a wash, okay? So this is called a wash. Okay, that's really fun. You use washes mainly for backgrounds, okay? I'm gonna use wet on wet technique when I get to my other card to show you, okay? So that's background stuff, okay? So now you're gonna do dry paper. Now we're just gonna do just your regular wet, okay? And this is kind of like what you guys have already been doing in class. So not much has changed. So you get that real nice watercolor. So you can get from dark to light. You can go back and add a little bit of water and wash it out. That's how you go. You guys were working on your worksheets at the beginning of the semester. You were doing a lot of real dark, and then you just kind of washed it out. So those are really fun, okay? So that's that. All right, rubbing alcohol. If you don't have rubbing alcohol, you could try witch hazel, hydrogen peroxide. I've never really tried those two. We're just gonna kind of see what we get, okay? First, if you're gonna use rubbing alcohol. Now, all of this stuff right now is for backgrounds, okay? If you have a background and you don't want a lot of detail, okay? You're just gonna wet your paper down, get some water in there, wet that down. Let's use some red. So you're gonna create that wash, okay? Get that nice color, okay? So what I do is I have this rubbing alcohol. You can take another brush, or you can even use your Q-tips. Doesn't matter. I just want to see what that does. See what that does? It kind of like repels that paint, which is really neat. Okay, you can try and drop it. You get these nice little watermarks. So that's pretty cool. You can even try and paint with it. That's neat. So that's rubbing alcohol. That's what that's gonna do, okay? Again, you can do that for background. You can go let that dry and then you can come back to that. Okay, let's look at water drops. It's almost very similar. Okay, get your water wet, or I'm sorry, your paper wet, okay? Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna get some color. Get that wash on there. If you wanna mix some colors, mix some colors. Oh, that's pretty. Okay, now what you wanna do is you're gonna get some water, load your brush up. So you're wanting to get a drop. Get a drop of water. Now watch how that starts to spread. Look at that. What'll happen is it pools and it collects, and the strongest colors are gonna be on the outside of that water drop. So it also helps to spread. It's just a really neat technique if you want to just try. So you're just touching that. So it's really neat. Okay, so that's that one. All right, witch hazel. I've never tried witch hazel before, so let's just see what we get. So get your paper all nice and wet. Okay, this is what witch hazel looks like. It says it's for face. Ooh, I don't know about that. We just had it for our dogs. All right, oh, I do actually need to put a color on there. Let's try this orange. That's pretty. Okay. So let's try this witch hazel. I'm just using a Q-tip. Again. Oh, perfect. Okay, so that is a lot like your rubbing alcohol. That's kind of neat. So again, you could probably paint that on. Oh, that's cool. Interesting. Okay, so that's witch hazel. Okay, let's try hydrogen peroxide. Get some water on there. Let's try green. Let's try the sap green. That's like a really pretty green. Okay, so hydrogen peroxide. I'm just gonna try. If I like pour this out, oh my gosh. Okay. Doesn't really do too much. Let's see if I can get a drop in there. Well, okay. Well, at least we know hydrogen peroxide doesn't really work. Okay. Well, there you go. Let's just X that one out. All right, and then bubble wrap. Bubble wrap is going to give you a texture. Now you can do texture With watercolor, you're just gonna have to be careful and let it dry. Okay. Let's try this color. That's a really bright color. I like that. That shows up really nice. Okay. So get that wet. And then you're gonna take your bubble wrap, flip it over. So what it does is it just basically pools like a texture. Doesn't really, I mean, you can do that as a background. That's totally cool. Let that dry. And then you're going to have where it pulls up, you're going to have the negative and then a little bit darker of that positive. You can restamp over a different color. Maybe use that somewhere else. Maybe if you want. Let's try red. Maybe you can paint your bubble wrap. So if you wanted to, you could go over that. It didn't really turn out that good. Oh well. It was just fun to play. Well, that hydrogen peroxide is kind of lightly coming through. That's interesting. Alcohol definitely does. Water drops does. Witch hazel, I mean, it kind of pulls a little bit. Hydrogen peroxide. Oh, one other thing is table salt. Hold on a second. Don't move. Let me grab table salt. Oh, I was just going to wipe down. Okay, so let's just spread that together. Let's make purple. I don't have purple. It's like a red violet. That's pretty. All right, so I have this pink Himalayan salt. So what you can do, you're gonna see, it's basically just gonna soak up if you let that dry. So what it does is it actually collects in little small pieces where that salt was. It's gonna collect all that paint. Once it dries, you can knock it off and you're gonna see these little teeny tiny starbursts of negative. So it's almost like stars because it'll look white because it's gonna soak up that color. So it's really interesting. You can even, I wonder if I can bring it up in here. Bring some of that. If you have a blow dryer, you could kind of like blow dry that, make that dry faster. It's still pretty wet, but you'll see that. I can already kind of see this one. It's kind of pulling those colors in, so it'll be kind of neat. It'll just leave white, a whole bunch of white little dots. You can kind of start to see it real tight. It's real small, but maybe pink salt, maybe there's a difference between pink salt and regular white salt. I don't think so, but it's really cool because you can really start to see it. But the more salt you use, the whiter and the bigger of those little white specks you'll see. So these are just, you know, just a fun way to do your backgrounds if you want something else by mixing colors. Okay. All right. Well, I hope this is a little bit helpful. Use some of that paper and just play around with it. All right. We'll see you later.